Hi, this is John Paul from John Paul Music UK. If this is your first time here, my channel is all about music tech and looping. This is a series of videos delving into the brand new Looperboard from Headrush. So if you want to know when the next video goes live, subscribe to the channel and also click the bell so you don't miss anything. So we've had a look around the Looperboard, its functionality, its effects, what it can do. The question still remains whether I would actually swap it out for the RC-300. Let's not beat around the bush. Absolutely yes. It's got 4 loops as opposed to 3. You can peel back. It's got functionality. It's got built-in effects that are from 2019 as opposed to 2011, and they are much more usable and user-friendly. We've got 4 separate inputs, and then we can also route out. Now I know you can route out on the RC-300 as well. It does have a sub out as well as a main out, and I'm not dissing the RC-300 at all. It is a powerhouse looper. It's an amazing looper, but this one literally is the 2019 version of this, and it's one of those things where either Boss are going to turn around and go, oh God, we need to bring out a new looper because this is just showing the power of what's available now. Or they're going to stick to their guns and keep with the RC-300 and go, this is built like a tank and it's renowned and people love it. We'll see and see what the future brings. However, for now, the Headrush Looperboard is king of the loopers as far as I'm concerned. I think for a lot of people, they could actually get rid of a lot of gear and just use that one looperboard. Certainly for live events, you've got backing track built in, you've got 4 loopers. Every memory you can reset the effects, so you can change that. You've got lots of different features like peel and bounce down, and you can just clear straight away. The availability to sort of speed up and slow down, even the availability to transpose is really, really useful for certain songs. I like the fact you've got 5 different ways of looping, so you've got fixed mode, serial mode, all those different modes. There's so many different features in this thing that it does have a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get your head around that, it's an absolute monster. It's got a built-in tuner, the list goes on. The way you can also loop as well, I really, really like. I've been gravitating towards the fixed mode, the serial sync mode, and then also the sync mode, so that where you can do different size loops. But then also the fixed mode, if I know something's only 4 bars, I'm just going to stick to that because it's going to work really, really well. There are a couple of things I would look at altering slightly. Maybe this would happen with firmware updates. It just depends on how Headrush look at it. Number 1 is the effects. Now, I'm not dissing the effects, the effects are brilliant. However, I use a vocal harmonizer, which then I plug the guitar in, it knows what chord I'm in, and then it can create harmonies on the fly. I don't see them bringing something like that into it, but I do use the TC Helicon Voice Live Play Acoustic, and that works really, really well for the vocals. I think that's amazing. So I would probably end up using that tied with the Headrush Looperboard. The other thing about the effects is you have to set them before you go for it. So you do have 4 racks, 4 effects racks, but you can't have more than that. So you can't cycle through, say, 12 effects and go, that's the one I want to use right now, which you can do with something like the TC Helicon. So they have over 200 effects. You can just go from A to B to C to D to E to F and carry on, and then just turn them on and off as and when you need them. So the way the effects are done, the effects are fantastic, but the way the effects are actually delivered to you are slightly more like a computer as opposed to live use. The other thing I mentioned before that I would like to change is the way that the pedals are associated when you've actually got something stopped. I just want to hit the bottom one to play it, not record, and maybe they'll flip that or give you an option to flip that in a firmware update. Obviously, these are dream scenarios for me. If they did that, it'd be fantastic, and then I'd be able to use that without worrying about reaching over. The RC-300 is an amazing powerhouse for people who want to get into looping and want that a little bit more advanced features from things like a Ditto looper or an RC-1 or an RC-30. Going from the RC-300, there are things that you just hit a ceiling, you just hit this I can't do this and I want to do this moment. This is where the Looperboard comes straight in. So the Looperboard with its DSP, it is basically a computer in a box dedicated to looping with effects built in, and I think it's an absolute powerhouse. One of the things I'd say about the looper board, of course, like any pedal board, is just the layout. You have to learn the new layout, and that's absolutely fine. If you're going to dedicate yourself to something like this, I think people can't turn around and go, oh, it's not like an RC-300. Well, it isn't. It's not like an RC-300. It is a looper board, and you have to learn that new way of finding things around. I've been able to find a couple of things very quickly, and say very native to actually just click a couple of buttons and go, that's there, okay, cool, and that's fine. And it's one of those trial and error things where you find things out in a gig, or you find things out basically at the home in the studio. I think it's just a way of learning the new board and also getting the time in the investment of that new board as well. So one of the things I really want to explain about this board, which really separates it from everywhere else, is the routing. So there's unlimited routing. So we've got 4 channels in, and I set it up so I've got a microphone on channel 1, my guitar on channel 2, and then I've got my other guitar that's going to be on channel 3, which is in a different tuning, and I can tell it basically whether that gets looped or not, where it gets sent to, and the routing options are fantastic. I really, really love this, and I think it's really what makes it stand out from the crowd. You can't reroute things like that with an RC-300. People are still using things like AB pedals, AB switches. Now, if I had a second mic, I could turn around and say, well, that's my microphone is looping, that microphone is not looping, but I don't need an AB switcher. I could just route it through the system and go, that's my singing mic, and this one is the looping mic. So I could do something like that if I just brought a second mic and a mic stand. The other thing about routing as well is routing the effects, and I really, really like the idea of being able to put an effect on just one track. So I could do a bass line and then just get the pitch right, and then obviously apply the effect afterwards, or I could actually put the effect on the input. I'm used to doing that, mainly because of using the TC Helicon stuff, by putting an effect on the input first, and then it just gets recorded. But you might want to turn it on and off, so you can actually have the bass going where it's just your vocal, and it's just the normal vocal coming in, and have that for the verse. And then when you're going into the chorus, to give it a little bit more oomph, actually turn the, like say the bass one that I've set up, you can turn that on in the chorus to give it that lift. So there's loads of options available, and it's just one of those things where I've spent a little bit of time with it, and I feel like I've only just scratched the surface. I think also with future firmware updates, Headrush have turned around and said they want to make this one of the best loopers available, if not the best looper available, and I think they're going to listen to customer feedback. So please let me know what you think in the comments below, if you think it is missing anything, or if you think it needs something to take it to even that extra level. I wanted to obviously show you a little bit deeper about this board. I want to hear about what you use. Are you using an RC-300? Are you using a different setup like a Voice Live 3? Or if you're using an external MIDI controller? It is probably a little bit about the same size, bit bigger, maybe a bit deeper than the RC-300. So I'm not thinking about it going, oh, it's going to completely reduce the size of the stuff I take. However, the power behind that is worth taking it. And let me know in the comments below what you think about the pedal, or if you've got any questions. I'm going to do a follow-up video with questions, so the more questions you put on this at the bottom, the more I've got to do that video for, and I'll try and answer them as much as I can. Thank you very much to Headrush as well. I was emailing them a couple of things to find out a bit about the board as well, so I'd like to thank them for their time and their patience with me while I've been emailing them and getting the board and getting all these videos sorted as well. So if you do want to see the question and answer video, obviously subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and it'll notify you when that video goes live. Also have a look at some of my other videos. I do a setup video all about looping, and also how I loop with my RC-300, so I'm going to show that in the cards now. And then also I've got a couple of other videos about how to loop as well. I'll put them in the end cards of this video. But thank you very much for watching.